Welcome to Life Stories, where love isn't always what it seems, and sometimes the person you trust the most is quietly digging your grave with a smile. Imagine waking up one morning only to discover that the life you built, the house, the marriage, the future, was all a beautifully constructed lie. Not a sudden betrayal, but one orchestrated piece by piece over months, maybe years, by someone who shared your bed. What would you do if you found out they were still alive and planning to vanish with everything? This is a story about a woman who didn't just survive betrayal, she turned it into justice. But to get there, she had to become someone else, smarter, sharper, colder. And it all started with a silver bucket, a fake funeral, and a man who thought he could outsmart the woman he promised forever. Let's step into her world. The church had never been so silent, not even during midnight mass, not even when caskets were wheeled down the aisle in slow processions of mourning. But that morning, it was a different kind of silence, the breathless kind that tightens chests and stretches time. Then she entered. Ava Brennan stepped through the arched doors, dressed in black from head to toe, her expression calm, eyes dry. She moved like a shadow, precise and quiet, drawing stares without looking at a single face. In her gloved hand, she carried a silver bucket filled with ice water, beads of condensation trailing down the sides like nervous sweat. No one knew what to say. No one dared ask. Not as she walked past the grieving family, past her mother-in-law, Evelyn, who clutched a lace handkerchief as if it were the last thing tethering her to dignity. Not as she approached the front of the church, where the open casket lay surrounded by navy blue roses and a blown-up photo of a smiling man in a tailored suit, Logan Brennan. Beloved son, loyal husband, taken too soon. Except he wasn't taken, not in the way they thought. Ava didn't cry, she didn't tremble. She raised the bucket slowly, purposefully, and without a single word, she emptied its icy contents onto her husband's face. But we'll come back to that moment. 2 months earlier, on a crisp autumn morning in Portland, Oregon, Ava stood barefoot in her modern home office, an elegant space of glass, steel, and cedar, sorting through a stack of unopened mail after returning from a business trip. Her architecture firm had just won a National Design Award, but the trophy sat untouched on her desk. She muttered as she flipped through bills, pausing only when she reached an envelope from Liberty West Assurance. She assumed it was the updated homeowner's policy. What she found instead stole her breath. Their joint savings account, meant for their dream cabin in Vermont, was nearly empty, $742.60. That wasn't possible. It had held over $2.3 million. She blinked, refreshed the banking site, and stared as the truth solidified in digital ink. Transaction after transaction, withdrawals, wire transfers, all traced back to Logan. At first, she told herself it had to be a mistake. Logan was reckless with time, not with money. But as she dug deeper, credit cards, investment logs, receipts, her world began to unravel. Casinos, hotel stays, restaurants they had never visited together, clothing in sizes and styles that didn't belong to either of them. Logan had gambled everything away, and worse, he hadn't told her. When he finally walked through the door with groceries and that same old boyish grin, Ava felt something inside her fracture. "You're home," she said quietly. "I missed you," he said, leaning in for a kiss. She stepped back. "Where's our money, Logan?" He froze, then smiled. "What are you talking about?" "The $2.3 million in our savings. It's gone." He chuckled, turning to the fridge. "Must be some kind of bank error. I'll check it out." "I already did," she said. "They're your withdrawals, all of them." Logan didn't respond right away. He reached for the carrots, placed them in the crisper drawer like nothing had happened. Then, finally, he said, "It's temporary. I had to move the money around." "Investments." "You mean blackjack tables? Slot machines?" Her voice cracked. "Is that where our future went?" He turned slowly. Something dark passed through his eyes. "You've been spying on me?" "No," she said. "I've been trying to understand why the man I married has turned into a stranger." "Maybe you never really knew me." Those words marked the end. She asked him to leave that night. He slammed the door behind him like it was still his house. The next morning, she received a voicemail from a woman named Cassidy Stone at Liberty West Assurance asking about the beneficiary confirmation for Logan's new policy. New policy? What policy? He listed you as primary, of course, Cassidy said when Ava called back. But there's a minor issue with the secondary beneficiary. His mother's social security number seems to be invalid. What policy is this? Ava asked, her voice tight. Cassidy hesitated. The $5 million life insurance, taken out just 3 weeks ago. Ava ended the call and sat in stillness. Her husband had drained their accounts, taken out a massive policy, listed her as the primary beneficiary, and now he wasn't answering her calls. That evening, a Coast Guard officer phoned. Logan's boat had been found adrift off the coast, empty, engine still running. No sign of him. The conditions were rough. They feared the worst. But Ava didn't cry. She logged into their bank account again. A final transaction had posted just 45 minutes before the boat was discovered. A wire transfer to an offshore account for $742.60. Every last cent. Gone. The next day, she typed how to fake your own death by drowning into a private browser window. She knew then. Logan wasn't dead. He was running. What would you do if the person you loved most became the architect of your destruction? Can a heart shattered by betrayal become sharp enough to cut back? Because as Logan Brennan vanished beneath the waves, Ava Brennan was already planning the most unforgettable resurrection the world would ever see. And in part 2, she'll start turning her grief into a weapon. Rain dripped from the gutters as Ava Brennan stood at the threshold of her life, watching a search team comb the storm-tossed coast for a body she knew they wouldn't find. She wrapped her coat tighter around herself, though it wasn't the wind that chilled her. It was the precision of it all. The timing, the transfer, the policy, the silence. Logan hadn't just run. He had orchestrated his vanishing with the finesse of someone who'd rehearsed it in secret, while sharing her bed, holding her hand, whispering lies against her skin. For 2 days, she moved through the motions of a grieving widow. She accepted casseroles she didn't eat, received hugs from people who didn't matter, and stared at photographs of a man she was still trying to unsee. And yet, she didn't cry. Instead, she archived everything. The insurance call, the final transaction, the last voicemail. Grief didn't hollow her. It sharpened her. Then came the message. A number she didn't recognize, but a name she did. Cassidy. I'm so sorry about Logan. I'm here if you need anything. There was no protocol in that message, no professionalism, only intimacy wrapped in sympathy. Cassidy Stone hadn't just processed the claim, she had known him. Ava read the text again, then again, and with each reread, her resolve thickened into something steel-bound. She hired Tess Morgan 2 days later, a private investigator with a war vet's instincts and the patience of someone who understood long games. Tess listened quietly as Ava laid it out. The missing money, the insurance policy, the staged accident, the girlfriend in corporate clothing. You think he's with her? Tess asked. I think they planned this together, Ava replied. And I want to know how deep it goes. The next few weeks unraveled like a conspiracy thriller written in Logan's handwriting. Tess found a cabin, remote, rented in cash under the name David Miller 2 weeks before Logan's supposed death. A second burner phone traced back to Cassidy. Surveillance photos showed them together, at the cabin, at a motel. And Evelyn, Logan's mother, was no grieving matriarch. She had sold her Arizona home and quietly transferred a sum just shy of $250,000 to a shell company registered in Belize. When Ava saw the photo of Evelyn retrieving something from a lockbox at a storage unit registered under Cassidy's name, she didn't flinch. By then, nothing surprised her, except how little her pain resembled sadness anymore. But the first twist didn't come with a revelation. It came with a knock. Agent Dana Collins introduced herself with a badge and a tone that sliced through pretense. Special Investigations Unit, Liberty West Assurance, she said. Do you have a moment to talk about your husband's policy? Ava played dumb, nodding slowly, her body poised somewhere between fear and performance. Dana was sharp, methodical, and refreshingly skeptical. She mentioned red flags, a new policy, a disappearance without a body, financial irregularities. Ava gave her access to everything. I've started to suspect something too, she confessed, voice low. But if I'm wrong, you're not, Dana replied. Not entirely, but proving intent is difficult. Unless he confesses or someone close turns on him, our hands are tied. That night, Ava walked through her house alone, setting up new security cameras in rooms she used to call safe. She didn't want to just expose Logan. She wanted him to confess. On tape. In his own words. Because if there was one thing Logan hated more than being poor, it was being irrelevant. He couldn't resist reclaiming the story. Ava knew he would come back, not as a husband, but as a victim, rescued, broken, repentant. He would fake amnesia. He would claim trauma. And when he did, she would be waiting. 1 week later at 9:17 p.m., he rang the doorbell. He looked gaunt, filthy, shaking, perfectly pitiful. "Ava," he croaked. "It's me." She didn't scream, didn't ask how. She opened the door and let him in. Played the role she knew he'd written for her. He said he'd been saved by undocumented fishermen, had lived in a clinic up north, had no memory until recently. His voice trembled. His eyes watered. "I found my way back to you," he whispered. Ava smiled and kissed his forehead. "We'll get through this," she said, watching the droplets of ocean water glisten on his lashes like guilt frozen in time. That night, while he slept in their bed, Ava reviewed the footage. In the bathroom, while pretending to shower, Logan made a call. "I'm in," he said. "She bought it. She's playing right into it. Give it a few days. We'll claim the advance, then disappear again." She watched the clip 4 times, saving it with a new label, Proof Resurrection 01. Then she opened her laptop and began planning his second death. This time, not in the ocean. This time, in public. What do you think Logan's greatest mistake was? Underestimating Ava's grief or her intelligence? Because what he didn't know was that Ava wasn't just preparing for a reunion. She was building a stage. And his resurrection was about to become the most public downfall he never saw coming. Logan's second funeral was held on a Thursday afternoon, under a bruised gray sky that threatened rain but never delivered. Guests filed quietly into Green Meadows Funeral Home, dressed in somber navy and black, whispering condolences that felt rehearsed and hollow. Some of them had been there before, just weeks earlier at the first service, when Logan had vanished at sea and Ava had stood brave and dry-eyed. But this time, there was a body, or so they thought. Ava Brennan stood in front of the casket, her spine straight, her lips pressed into a solemn line. She wore the same black dress she'd worn to the first service, but her presence was different now, heavier somehow, more still. The room was filled with white lilies, Logan's favorite, and navy satin ribbons wrapped around tall vases. A slideshow of photos played on a quiet screen near the altar. Logan as a boy with a baseball glove. Logan kissing Ava on their wedding day. Logan holding a glass of champagne at a New Year's party in 2022. A curated life. A fictional man. Evelyn sat in the front row, dabbing her eyes with a pristine handkerchief, though Ava suspected the tears were for herself, not her son. Cassidy Stone was there too, lurking in the back, her expression tight and unreadable beneath a wide-brimmed black hat. She hadn't touched Ava since she walked in, hadn't even made eye contact. That didn't matter. They were all right where they needed to be. Inside the casket, hidden beneath makeup and stillness and just the right dosage of sedatives, Logan Brennan was not dead. Not yet. He'd faked his collapse, claimed his heart had given out from trauma. Ava had made the call to 911 herself, playing the concerned wife. Dr. Marcus Reed, the same man who had signed Logan's first death certificate, declared the second one without hesitation. Marin had helped make the arrangements. And now, the stage was set. The final act was about to begin. She stepped up to the podium, her hands trembling ever so slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of it all. Her voice when she spoke was soft and low, forcing the room into a hush. "We gather here again to say goodbye," Ava began. "Not to a man we fully knew, but to the version of him we wanted to believe in." Some heads tilted. Some people frowned. Evelyn's grip on her handkerchief tightened. "My husband was full of surprises," Ava continued. "Some beautiful, some devastating. But there's one thing I've learned in the weeks since his first disappearance. The truth always finds its way, even when it's buried deep." She stepped away from the microphone and approached the casket. Cassidy shifted uncomfortably. Evelyn whispered something to the person beside her. Ava reached down and picked up a silver bucket from beside the flowers, the same one she had used before, polished, filled again with ice water. This, Ava said clearly, is for the man who thought he could drown a marriage, steal a future, and rise clean from the wreckage. Then, without flinching, she poured the bucket's contents directly onto Logan's face. Gasps erupted across the room. A second later, Logan sat up, gasping, sputtering, eyes wide with shock and confusion as water dripped from his hairline to his chin. "What the hell?" he shouted, wiping at his face. "Ova, what the hell is this?" The room exploded in chaos. Chairs scraped back. Phones rose into the air. Someone screamed. Cassidy dropped her purse. Evelyn looked like she might faint. Ava turned to the guests. "Ladies and gentlemen, I give you my very much alive husband, Logan Brennan." Two detectives stepped forward from the back pews, flashing badges. Special Agent Dana Collins followed, calm and composed, clipboard in hand. "Logan Brennan, you are under arrest for insurance fraud, conspiracy, and staging your own death. You have the right to remain silent." Logan turned to Ava, eyes wild. "You set me up," he snarled. "You twisted psycho." She didn't blink. "You drugged yourself. You planned this with your mistress. You stole every dollar we ever earned. You told the world you were dead and expected me to grieve while you built a new life in Belize. I didn't set you up, Logan. You buried yourself. I just handed you the shovel." Cassidy tried to bolt for the side door, but Dana's team stopped her before she reached the hallway. Evelyn stood rooted in place as another officer stepped toward her. "There's been a mistake," Evelyn said faintly. "I didn't know anything. I thought he was dead." "We have wire transfers with your name," Agent Collins replied. "We'll sort it out at the station." As they were escorted out, Logan twisted around one last time, his voice ragged and furious. "You think this makes you strong? You think you've won?" Ava met his gaze, unflinching. "No, winning would have been keeping the life I thought we had. This is justice." The room slowly emptied after that. Guests stumbled out in shock, whispers trailing behind them like smoke. Ava remained, standing beside the now truly empty casket. Tess appeared at her side. "You okay?" The PI asked gently. Ava nodded, though the silence that followed was loaded with grief she hadn't yet allowed herself to feel. "He came back to haunt me," she murmured, "and I turned him into a ghost for real." 6 months later, the Phoenix Fund opened its doors. Located in a sleek, repurposed fire station downtown, the foundation offered counseling, legal aid, and support for victims of financial betrayal and relational abuse. A brushed steel plaque hung on the front wall, inscribed with the motto, "Truth, like water, finds its way." In the center of the main room, displayed in a glass case, stood a small silver bucket, the same one that had awakened a man and ended a lie. Ava didn't visit Logan in prison. He tried. Letters came, then requests through lawyers. He said he wanted to apologize, said he had changed, but Ava had already buried the man he used to be twice. She didn't need to exhume him again. Some nights, though, she still stood at the window of her new office, watching the city breathe beneath her. The skyline glowed with buildings she designed, clean, balanced, transparent, unlike her marriage, unlike her past. But she'd built something better now. Not from vengeance, from clarity. She had loved a man who wore masks, and in tearing them off, she found her face again. How did this story make you feel? Which moment struck you the hardest? Comment 100 if you loved the story. Let us know where you're watching from. What country are you in? And don't forget to share this story with a friend. Thank you for watching Life Stories.